We've got flags and banners, and if you mind your manners, we might even get to standards and what they represent. So just take my voice's hand and we'll both try to understand how this vexillologic podcast could be flagged for content. Flagged for content.
What's up, Vex Heads, and welcome to episode 37 of Flagged for Content. It's the only podcast that is slowly collecting guests from each of the UK constituent countries in order to, well, you'll just have to see. It's also a Flags for Good podcast, which I mention every week when I remember to. And especially pertinent this week, if you saw last week's episode on the first light flag of Syracuse, New York, Flags for Good is selling that flag. You can go get your own. Honestly, even if you're not in Syracuse, I got to get one because it's just good design is good design. Anyway, if you do go there, you can use the code FLAGGED4, the number 4, content, and you can get 10% off, and it helps the show out as well. So that'd be a pretty cool thing of you to do if you were gonna. I think they already sold out the pre-orders, but keep checking. You can use that code on anything. The past few weeks, I used to do shout out games and contests on Instagram. I have not done that as much lately. I've been honestly exhausted with social media is the reason you haven't seen me post as much, but I am kind of recovering, if that's, the operative term here. Anyway, I've started to highlight, people in the flag community that help out this show in one way or the other. And this week, I do want to give that shout out to Christoph Hook. Hook. I always say it wrong the first time. Anyway, Captain Hook. Christoph Hook has been, he's been invaluable. If you saw the episode Vexillology, he is the guest on that one. In addition to that, he just did a really good thread on Twitter. If you go to @VexiUpdate, VEXI update, no underscores or anything, go check out his thread that he did on the Utah flag situation. I could not have said it better. I know I say that a lot. It's because it's true a lot. He also helped me out by being my Patreon guest this month. If you are at the $5 or above level, that's the middle tier, I can't help myself. I am going to release the entire hour-long conversation that he and I had on Czech regional flags, which is fascinating. Honestly, even if you sign up for $5, you watch that, you give me your $5 and you leave the next month, I do not care. That is fine. You guys need to see this. I need to come out with a teaser for it, for one, as well. Anyway, so thanks again, Christoph, for everything you do for the Vexy community. You are a superstar. And that's all the notes I had for today. So you guys are going to love this episode. I had such a blast recording this one. I talked to Scott Thomson, who is, from what I understand, from an entire land of Scots. I think it's just all people Oh, okay. Sorry, I checked my notes. He's from Scotland. Okay. And but yeah, we talk all about the Scottish heraldry tradition. This is a definitely more heraldry focused episode than most other ones I've done, even considering I've had Christoph on. And the interplay between heraldry and vexillology and kind of how those worlds not even so much collide, but are just intermixed inextricably. Other words that start with N. And yeah, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into this episode with guest Scott Thomson. Folks, we have another amazing guest for y'all this week. You know him from Twitter and Instagram as Surdur, if you know how to spell it. You know him from the Lord Lyon Society in Scotland, and you know him from the Aberdeenshire Flag Twitter account, that brand new one. It's Scott Thomson!
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, how's it going, Scott?
I'm fine, thank you. Recovering from a hot day yesterday, which is unusual for Aberdeenshire at this time of year, but freezing, back to usual freezing again today.
So hot yesterday and back to the usual freezing. That's fun. Yeah. Is that typical Scottish weather, the change, or is the typical Scottish weather just always freezing?
The change. It can be really hot in summer, especially lately. But it's usually you could have 4 seasons in one day. You could have.
Right.
We've just recovered last week from snow.
Oh,
and then
wow.
sun, and then so there's a mix of everything. You never know what you're going to get.
Awesome. Yeah, and you're like a photographer. Did you get any good snow pics?
Not this time, no. It
Hmm.
wasn't too heavy this time. The problem is the roads are so terrible in Scotland, you can't actually get anywhere.
Oh, fair enough.
No, and with work and everything, I didn't have a
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah. Aberdeenshire's up there, right? Like you're like, I don't know, halfway up on the east coast or
It's only
so?
northeast Scotland. It's normally
Northeast, yeah.
listed as where Aberdeen itself, the city, is sort of equivalent to Moscow, same sort of latitude.
Oh.
So it's fairly north. Yeah.
Those those like latitude equivalent things always blow my mind because it's never the ones that you would think. Anyway, Vex heads, we don't have too much time to small talk here because we have a lot of great stuff on the flagpole today. First, our usual over and underrated flags. We are going to chat some about Scottish heraldry, just writ large, and what makes it so unique. We will go over the Lord Lyon and the newly created Lord Lyon Society, speaking of what makes Scotland unique. We'll talk about the not so clear process of getting Scottish flags adopted, and if we have time, we will end on a game. But before we get to all that, Scott, I like to ask my guests, what is your favorite flag?
Well, my favourite flag is Sutherland.
Scott,
As a surprise
me too.
Really?
Why do you love it so much?
Basically, because generally the colour scheme, black and white, always looks good in a flag, along with the yellow sun. But I like the combination of the mix of heritages, really, in the flag. It's a Scottish community flag. It's a Scottish county. The county itself is called Sutherland, meaning the Southland. Obviously, it's in the far north of Scotland. So at that point, you realise that it was the extreme south of the Nordic world.
Right, yeah.
It was part of the northern world for centuries. So it's got the mix of the Scottish saltire, the Nordic cross, the colour scheme is fantastic, and then you have the golden sun in the middle, which just sets it all off. It's somewhat the perfect flag. So
yeah, I mean, you said it all. That's what made me fall in love with it. The moment I saw it, the aesthetics obviously is the first thing that that is going to strike you with any flag, I think. And then I was like, I have to know more. And looking up, I didn't even know where it was. I just saw a flag of Southern. It probably was like a Google search that trailed off like ... And I was like, tell me more. And then the mix of the saltire and the Nordic cross. The history, if the history is that cool and the design is that cool, I mean, what more needs to be said, really?
Exactly. And it's strange to think as well that it almost didn't come into existence, because
I know they almost had that like countercharged like bird or something.
Yeah, which works in terms of the heraldry of Sutherland. That's on the 3 stars and eagle, and the color scheme works well for Sutherland, but they forgot to ask the people what they wanted.
Right.
It was a committee that decided that one, and the people rebelled.
Yeah.
So they had to redo the whole competition. So it was just sheer luck, because Sutherland itself is not a high populated area. So the fact that the people were up in arms about it to redo a competition, I think, says something about the sorts of community spirit of the county.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you love to see it in what we do. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I suspect we will get a little bit more into the red tape or like the just confusing way that all that happens in a little bit. But we've got to get to would you like to start with an over or an underrated flag?
I think I'll start with it overrated.
All right. And actually, I do not know either of these, listeners, so let's go.
Okay, for my overrated flag, it was a tough choice because there's not many flags I don't like. I don't like, and I do like this flag, but it's the flag of Brazil.
Brazil?
Brazil, yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of green and yellow combination anyway. It's just I find the flag overly complicated for what it is. The design is fine. Even the color scheme is not to my personal taste normally, but the fact that there's writing on the flag, and at least if you're going to have writing on the flag, you should be able to read it from a distance.
Yeah.
It's very small writing.
And curved and yeah.
And curved. It's on a globe. And also there's 27 stars on it that are so small that, you can't make them out at a distance. It's fine for online or, up close.
Right.
But, I mean, it's distinctive enough that you can still tell it's the Brazil flag.
Sure,
That's in its favour. But the small details on it for a national flag, I find a little bit too much.
Yeah, I just talked with Brian from the Fog and Gold flag about this, but most flags, you can only really appreciate them once they're on a pole and flying, and you're like, wow, like I didn't really give it credit on a computer screen, but now that I see it flying, gorgeous. This is one that, I think kind of like you said, it's almost the opposite. Like you can appreciate it, the detail, the level on a screen, but when it's up there flying, especially if you're even moderately far away, it's kind of lost on you.
Exactly. From a distance, it looks a bit like an eye.
Yeah.
On the middle, you've got the yellow viscera of the eye, and then you've got the green. So, as I said, it looks nice flying. I don't doubt it, and it's wonderful seeing in like the World Cup and the football when you see the supporters with it and everything. But just with the level of detail, when it's flapping and flying, it's difficult to make it.
Yeah. I think I'll co-sign that one. I largely agree with that. Somebody else has that as their overrated too. I forget who it was. Underrated. What would you say is an underrated flag?
Okay, for underrated, it's probably underrated because not a lot of people know it or are unfamiliar with it. But it's a small island on the west coast of Scotland.
Ooh.
And it's the flag of Tiree, which is this one here.
Okay. I thought you were going with the other one, but with the sky, I mean.
Now, I know I said green and yellow weren't my favourite color combinations.
Yeah.
This one is. So, but what I like about this one is it's an Inner Hebrides island, as said, west coast of Scotland, very tiny. I think it only has a population of about 600. But it merges. It's actually called the Son of Barley flag. It's exactly what it is. There's a wheel of barley on it. It's got the barley stems, a mix of yellow and gold there. And there's 12 of them in a clock face.
Yeah, I was just going to ask it in the seasons and all that, yeah. Or months, not seasons. The 12 seasons.
The 12 seasons. On Scotland, there are many seasons. And
yeah, there you go.
Especially on Tiree.
Right.
And also it's slightly offset, so it's in the Scandinavian manner. And it was part of the Kingdom of the Isles and the Norse heritage as well. And many, I think one of the other finalists in the competition for that one was a Scandinavian cross, a white flag with a white Scandinavian cross with a blue fimbriation. So it was like it was
okay.
It was an unusual
space almost kind of thing.
Space type cross. It was really nice.
Ooh, I would like that.
This one was the overall winner. I think it got 56% of the vote. It's mostly green. I actually like the shade of green on this one. It's a little bit deeper green.
I do too, yeah.
And just with the Son of Barley, the island is known for its barley, obviously, so why they've chosen the the barley on their symbol, and it's always been used as a symbol of the island as well, the barley. So I think, and it's quite really distinctive when you see it flying as well.
Gotcha. Do they have like a distillery or two on the island? Is it big enough even, or?
Not as far as I'm aware. I didn't actually think to look that up. But the barley is certainly used for the whiskey.
Oh, yeah.
Nearby. Isla is close by, so
Right.
They may take their share of the barley.
Yeah. So for myself and any listeners who want to look this up, how do we spell Tyree?
It's TIREE.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I am going to commit that to memory. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, very underrated, and like you said, yeah, I mean, as much as that Nordic cross like that you described that got second place sounds cool, even I have to admit, like, all right, there's only so many like that need to have a Nordic cross. Like,
exactly.
The ones that are doing it are nailing it. Like, I mean, I love Caithness, I love Sutherland, and Isle of Skye. Like, they're killing it. You know, let's mix it up a little bit too. Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
All right, awesome. So yeah, so let's get into kind of the main part of the show, as it were. Here, you have an extensive background in heraldry in Scotland, and you told me in our correspondence that the flag that got you into flags in the first place was also the Scottish Royal Banner, that kind of like that yellow one with the red lion rampant and the border. So I assume those are related, your love for heraldry and your love for that flag.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, what got me into it in the first place was when I was in secondary school. At the time, you weren't really taught much Scottish history in school, particularly. So it was always something that I did myself in my spare time. And when you're looking up the books, what you begin to see is the heraldry is abundant in Scottish history. And specifically the Scottish coat of arms, the Lion Rampant, was seen on flags. You saw it at football games, soccer games. It was abundant in the supporters in the crowd. So I was seeing that in football games. I'm like, oh, what flag is that? Then when I was like 9 or 10-year-old, reading the history, and then you're seeing the images of this Lion Rampant on, I mean, most famously, the sort of surcoat of Robert the Bruce. He's seen wearing it in paintings and imagery you see of him. Nearly always that's what he's wearing. Other Scottish kings were seen wearing it. It was just very striking image of this lion on your chest.
Yeah.
So, and in connecting the shield, well, it's the lion's on his shield. It's also on his chest, and it's also a flag. So it brought together this interest in, well, why is it on a shield? Why is it on a flag? And it brought these two distinct perspectives together in histories. So that from looking just at the flag, I was then able to look into, well, what exactly is heraldry in Scotland? And
so what does make Scottish heraldry like? I guess unique, not just from, I mean, even unique within like British heraldry.
Basically, I would say the main difference is the Lord Lyon, who's the chief herald in Scotland, has an extensive set of powers over the heraldry in Scotland. Now, the chief heralds always have this power to create arms and things, but it's also unique in Scotland because of the clan system.
Right. Yeah.
The Lord Lyon essentially, I think the first recorded line was 14th century, but it's a continuation of an ancient royal system. The kings, it was called Shonachie. He was in charge of, court.
I looked up that word before before the record, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try and impress him. I looked it up on YouTube, and I was like, nope, there's no friggin' way I can pronounce this thing.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he was basically the in charge of all the nobility, the
right,
noble
okay,
titles, and sometimes the religious aspects for the earlier. Obviously, when it became the Lord Lyon, it was more court procedure, the coats of arms. Also, their decide on who's the rightful claimants to clan chieftains, clan chiefs. So they have a distinct set of powers in that. Also, the Lord Lyon is very much in control of flags in Scotland.
gotcha.
Whereas in England, the heralds there, the Kings of Arms in England, they're mainly solely based on the heraldry side of things. They, if you're looking for a flag in England, you don't have to go to the heralds to get it authorised or anything. In Scotland, it's very much if you want an official flag, it has to go through the court of the Lord Lyon. It's an extra step. If you look at a map of the UK, their county flags, you'll see, or if every county of England has their flag in Wales, when you see it in Scotland, it's virtually bereft of flags.
Yeah, yeah.
It's empty. It's only now beginning to be a thing, and it very much so. It was because you needed to go this extra step. You had to get it authorised by the court of the Lord Lyon.
Yeah, but it does seem though like within the last few years there have been like the pace has picked up a little bit. Like, does that?
Yes, I would say
Is
so.
that maybe have they kind of like, I don't know, not loosened restrictions is maybe not the right way, but maybe, well, I guess, have they put forward more propositions for flags, or have they kind of like gotten the ball rolling
Well, I think
for people?
from my perspective, I think the current Lord Lyon we have, Dr. Morrow, he's been Lord Lyon since I think 2014, and he's very much a reformer, very much wanting to take heraldry more to the people, to make it prominent,
Gotcha.
to educate people. Because in my mind, it was something that was very much, a hidden sort of aspect of Scottish history. People didn't know. They saw it everywhere, but they didn't know how it worked, and it seemed very secretive. Whereas I feel with the current Lord Lyon, he's very much out in with the people. He does talks. He goes to Highland Games in the States as well. He goes to he was at the Tartan Parades in New York just recently.
Cool.
And also they've employed an honorary vexillologist at the court of the Lord Lyon now, Philip Tibbets, and he's very much the instigator, I feel, for a lot of
Gotcha.
the current flags.
So, sorry, go on.
No, basically, the way it works in Scotland, the flag has to be it has to be by a body, someone of authority within that body that has to ask for a flag. You can't. Whereas, like any sort of community association in England, as long as someone agrees to the Flag Institute or something, it can be
right.
That can be sorted out. But in Scotland, it very much has to be an authorised body, such as a local council or a community council or a city council, anything like that. Or in this case, I think with the current ones, it's the Lord Lieutenants of the counties, who are the sort of honorary king's representatives in each of the counties.
Gotcha. So so you said the current Lord Lyon has been in since 2014. Is that right?
I think it's around about 2014.
a roundabout anyway.
Yeah.
And is he the one that appointed the honorary vexillologist?
Yes. Yes.
Like, was that around 2014 as well, or
Uh,
kind of early?
I would say it was a bit later than that. I can't remember the exact date, but it's
Okay.
certainly
I guess
fairly recently. Yeah, it's not.
yeah.
He's been
Yeah, I
doing it
guess what
for
I was gonna ask is like that word honorary there, like does he really have any like real say or like, quote unquote power, or does he just kind of like he has the ear of certain people that he needs to, or
my, my understanding, he has a direct ear to the Lord Lyon, so
okay.
he's also what's known as a pursuivant. He's like one of the lower down from the Lord Lyon, one of the other heralds in the court of Lord Lyon as well.
Gotcha.
So he also deals with heraldry sides himself as well. People can petition him to speak to the Lyon on their behalf as well, and I believe. So he's very much and he's very much keen on flags. He's designed a
I
few
would
of
hope.
them. Well, exactly. So many of the early flags were instigated by him, or like Kirkcudbrightshire in the Scottish border area is a Philip Tibbetts designed flag.
Is that the green and white one
It's the green and white one with a cross, yes.
with a cross in the? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, so you talked briefly about like the in Scotland it has to be someone official that kind of starts the things. I was just wondering, like, you run the Aberdeenshire Flag Twitter account, and what is the @ for that?
It's at the Shire Flag.
At the Shire Flag, that's right. So you run that account, so you have at least a little bit of, I don't know, inside knowledge of like, do you have any kind of I don't know, what's the story of how this one got started? Like, who started it and what was the process with this one specifically?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest, it took me completely by surprise that
right. Okay.
the competition was coming.
Yeah.
I've been sort of advocating for an Aberdeenshire flag for years, but and I'd written to local MPs, local councillors, but never got a response. Not everyone's interested in that. They've got other things to deal with. But the difficulty in Scotland as well is the historic counties and the local councils are no longer merged. They're no longer together. So
right.
Councillors, all the flags are based on the historic counties, but the local authorities, so Aberdeenshire Council, has no link to the historic county in terms of management, other than it's obviously the same land. It's slightly different borders. The Aberdeenshire Council area takes in a sort of neighbouring counties as well, partially and wholly in some cases. So it's not, the borders don't always match. So for the historic county, it was the Lord Lieutenant, as far as I'm aware, that was approached the Lord Lyon to get a competition started in this case.
Gotcha. So like, so you're a resident of like Aberdeen proper? Or you're in Aberdeenshire in any case?
I'm in Aberdeenshire, about 20 miles from the city.
And you're like super keyed in on heraldry and like flag stuff, and this still caught you by surprise, which like
completely, yeah, completely
has to say something about the like batty like way that it like just crops up and everything.
I mean, yeah, I may have just been out in the loop, but
yeah,
it just appeared in the newspaper one day. It was I had no foresight of it at all, to be honest.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. So, okay. So you see it in the newspaper one day. You're taken aback. All right. Okay. But cool. Let's do this. What's the next step? Is that they put it in the newspaper and immediately folks start voting on it at that point? Or
what they did, they announced that they were having the competition, and they opened up the competition to anyone in the world to send in their entries. So that I believe it was announced in September of 2022. They had over 820 submissions from all around the world. What Phil Tibbets, the honorary vexillologist, does, what he goes and does then is he goes to the local schools, shows them a presentation of flags, the type of thing that you might want in a community flag, and he very much gets the schools and the local community involved as well.
right.
So he went to the local schools in the area. Most of the entries were from school children. The winner was designed by local school children, and most of the finalists, I believe, were from local schools as well. So
Yeah.
it was a good indicator of the work they're doing in the community, that
Right.
he's able to get the young kids involved, and some of the designs they come up with were spectacular.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, the winning one. I think I even saw the like drawing, I guess, that it was based on.
Yes.
That's somewhere out on the web. I guess probably on your account somewhere. But yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I remember when I was talking to Nasha in France about that, and yeah, he was getting the one change for Chateau Thierry in there in France, and it was mostly school children there as well. And it's the same thing. It's like, I'm just glad, like, you know, a lot of those kids, like, especially the one that won, like now that's like a Vex head for life. Like,
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, which is
fun as well.
Very cool to see. Speaking of which, like, you were talking about the Lord Lyon, or the Philip, you said his name was, going into the schools and everything. And I think, like, I'm on the Court of the Lord Lyon's website here, and they've got like a few pictures at the top scrolling of that. Why is every vexillology society's website really terrible? Like, really just like, let's nicely, politely call it old school. And as someone who is a big fan of aesthetics, can you change this?
I wish I could. Old school seems to be the way to go with websites if you're in the heraldry and flag community.
Yeah.
I don't think the Court of the Lord Lyon website has been updated for it feels like decades. It looks like decades.
They integrated a Twitter thing, and then they probably just were like, all right, we're done forever.
Yeah. Even the Heraldry Society of Scotland one, which is a separate charity, in support of that website has not been updated for a little while. They're a little bit dated.
Yeah, I did notice at least your so which I want to go into this next too. The Lord Lyon Society, of which you are a part, I noticed they at least have a good website, so they got that going for them.
Yes, they've splashed the cash on their website.
Yeah, a little bit, right?
And it's a charity that I'm only a new member of the Lord Lyon Society, but I think the basic idea behind that is the collection of coats of arms that the Lord Lyon issues to people when they're matriculated. They're all recorded in books, in vellum. They're all hand painted. They're all handwritten, and they've been that way since 1639 or round about then. So the idea behind the Lord Lyon Society as a charity is to get them digitized. So that there's a permanent record for those, because obviously books from the 1700s
right,
will have wear and tear, and you're going to lose a lot of the historic value over time, just through natural erosion of the books. So the
Sure.
whole basis for this is to promote heraldry in Scotland, to because there's a lot of misunderstanding on heraldry, even in Scotland, where heraldry is very prominent. The the general population, if you're not interested in it, have no clue as to the history of it, the importance of it,
Yeah.
why it's important to Scottish history, Scottish culture. What coats of arms can tell you. They're very useful for like tracing family trees. And what people often think is that you have to be well-to-do, you have to be a nobleman, you have to be, really
Right.
there in terms of society. But anyone can apply for a coat of arms in Scotland. I'm not
Okay.
going to lie and say it's not expensive. But you can, anyone can apply for a coat of arms in Scotland. It's very ecumenical in that terms.
Gotcha.
So
Okay. So by apply for one, like, because I don't know. I mean, I have like a very, very base level knowledge of like, I guess, Scottish history and the interplay between like the clans and heraldry and things like that. But like for those people who purchase one and don't already have one, like it seems like most families already have one, right? Like,
well, this is one of the misunderstandings of heraldry,
okay.
is families don't have coats of arms. Certainly
Okay,
not
individuals do.
individuals do, yes.
Okay.
Now, certain countries do have that. I think Ireland, what little sort of control they have over heraldry there at the moment, are based more around, the whole family can use it. But English heraldry, Scottish heraldry is very much the individual. The way it works in Scotland, because of the clan system, anyone with the same surname is regarded as being part of the clan. You're all perceived to be related. It's a pretense. Obviously, not everyone's with the same
Sure.
surname
Yeah.
will be related, but because of the clan system, what you would do, if say my surname Thomson, when I applied, I have a stag's head on mine,
Mm-hmm.
and very much Thomson's coats of arms from the very first recorded Thomson coat of arms had a stag. So
Okay.
anyone called Thomson in Scotland who applies for coats of arms, they obviously get their input to what they want as well. But generally, they'll design it. Oh, you're a Thomson, so it's taken as that's the ancestors' coats of arms, and you generally, if you look at people called Thomson in Scotland, coats of arms, virtually all of them have a stag's head as the main charge on the coats of arms.
Gotcha. So is it always like, is there a standard place that you put it? Is it always at the bottom of a shield, or is it
Not
just
always. No, and you don't have to have that. If you really want something different, then obviously they'll accommodate you.
yeah?
But most people tend to want that link.
Okay.
So mainly on the Thompson one, it's right in the middle. It's the main charge.
Right.
But I've seen ones where it's in the shield, the top of the shield. So there's maybe 3 at the top, and then something different at the bottom. The colours may change. You can move it to the side and have something else. So
Mhm.
they'll work with you to what you want. They're not dictatorial in any way. They'll obviously try to make it so the design is good.
Yeah.
It's pleasing on the eye.
Right.
They're not always like that. I have seen some shockers. Some slip
Yeah.
through, but
I guess that's an interesting like question. Like, is there do they have like certain like standards that like they just won't allow for like certain things? Like you can't just put like a big middle finger on it, or can you? Like, I have no idea.
Well, I'm sure you could get around it. I mean, when you apply for the coats of arms, you have to make sure that you're of good character, I think is what they say.
And they determine who's of good character, I assume.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, in my case, it was certainly just you have to prove your descent from to make sure you say who you are.
Gotcha.
So birth certificates for yourself, family members, that type of thing, as far back as you want. I mean, I only did it as back as far as my grandfather, but you can go back to the mists of time if you want.
Yeah.
As long as you've got documentary proof, then that's fine, and that will all be mentioned in the actual matriculation of the arms when you get it. But
Right.
they do try to make sure everything is up to date and legal, and you are who you say you are for the most part.
Yeah,
But
fair.
there are, if you ever look at Sean Connery's coats of arms, that's quite a fussy coat of arms. It's an unusual.
Oh Lord. Well, now I have to.
He's got everything he's ever done, basically, in his coats of arms.
Everything's a what?
He's got his love of golf on there, his love of other references to his life.
Oh wow.
There's
like
all
a
sorts
painting.
Yeah,
Oh, he's got like a little Scottish Terrier.
That's right, yeah.
Some unicorns that are also mermaids that also have wings.
Yeah, I'm
what
not sure
in the world? Okay, the like drama mask up at the top makes sense. Okay, he's an actor.
Yeah,
The Scottish thing, the golf, painting. I didn't know he was into painting. Okay, yeah, this is wild, but allowed. So okay.
Yeah, I mean I find Scottish heraldry tends to try and simplify the heraldry as much as possible. It's not overly fussy. Sometimes if you see some English coats of arms, because they don't have the same, like someone called Thomson applying for coats of arms in England, they could all have different coats of arms. There's not a link between them. They could be anything, whatever they want. Whereas because there's a through line through the name in Scotland, there tends to be a more distinct, clear picture of the coats of arms that I find sort of, you can look at arms and his surname's probably Thomson or McPherson or
right.
You can tell that. Whereas with English arms and other countries, can't necessarily do that.
Yeah. So yeah, given that, like you said, Scotland likes to kind of simplify things, I wonder what version Sean Connery wanted. Like, I wonder what he wanted this thing to look like before they simplified it to this. It's just a fun thought. No, I had another question that I want to ask before I forget it, which I will otherwise. As far as the names, the Thomson, the Stag in your case, for those folks who have like a hyphenated last name, like well, I've been watching a lot of Taskmaster, like Kyle Smith Bino, like a last name that's hyphenated like that. Do they kind of bring in one from each? And if so, does one have precedence, or is it just I guess it's up to the individual?
What often happens, if there's a hyphen in the name in Scotland, it's generally regarded as that's one surname. It's a whole surname.
Okay.
If you take, what you'll find is, and this becomes relevant for clan chiefs, because obviously with intermarriage and things through clans, say the clan chief could have a hyphenated name, but if his name is hyphenated, he can't be clan chief because he has a different surname from the actual clan. So
right,
he either changes his name to the clan surname, so he can inherit the arms. He can't inherit the chiefship.
Okay.
But if you remove the hyphen, which a lot of them do, it then becomes two separate surnames, and then you can show the arms from both those surnames on the shield, and then you can inherit from there. That's my understanding. So it's a very the actual chiefship side of heraldry in Scotland is quite a complicated legal sort of minefield, as far as I can see.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't know. I mean, like, as an American, and I don't think this is just me, but I don't know if it's everybody either. I always thought, like, so my dad's parents live in Ohio, or lived in Ohio, and we would go up and they had like a family crest, like framed. I think I somehow ended up with it. It's like in the basement or something, but like a family crest framed, and it says like, it just says Richardson at the bottom, my last name.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I guess like as Americans, like, not that it came up a lot as kids, but sometimes it would be like, no, this is the actual Richardson family crest. No, it's actually supposed to look like this. No, it looks like that. So basically, we were fighting over a non-issue because there are many different ones for different lines. Of course, that's more English, I know, but
what tends to happen is there's a large tourist trade on selling coats of arms. Websites as well. So when you're buying, say, a Richardson coats of arms, it's somebody's arms called Richardson.
Yeah.
But unless you can prove descent from that person, they're not your arms.
Right.
But if you have very valuable proof that you are a descendant from them, then you would have some claim, possibly, on the arms.
Yeah, my dad, since he retired, he got super into genealogy, so maybe he can, I don't know, figure some of that out.
Yeah.
I even wonder, now that I'm thinking about it, I even wonder where they got that little framed thing, if it was passed down, or if they just found it at like a garage sale and they were like, hey, it's our last name. For all I know, that's the case, and I've been thinking for years that, this thing is...
There's plenty shops in Edinburgh that will happily sell you coats of arms. Which in Scotland, the Lord Lyon does have legal authority to remove possessions that if they're not your arms. Obviously, they don't generally do that these days, but they do have the power. If you're using someone's arms that you have no right to, there's an initial fine of £100. But I think that fine has been £100 since at least the 1700s. So inflation hasn't changed that much.
Yeah.
However, if you continue to use the arms, and just you might not be aware of it and just think it's a joke or something, they then have unlimited fine capacity.
Damn.
And if you still ignore it, they can confiscate anything that the arms are on. So, so if you're using arms that aren't yours, and say you're a haulage company, they could potentially confiscate all your vehicles if it's on the vehicles. Now, in modern instances, the Lord Lyon will not do that. They generally... There's been, over the past few years, there's been instances with local football clubs wearing like the saltire on their badge, which generally should only be used for national organisations. So a local football club using it can get the ire of the Lord Lyon. But the Lord Lyon these days will be willing to work with the club to redesign it, to create arms themselves for the club if they want. So they're not dictatorial in
right.
that.
I was going to say, so I mean, so that they don't all have to use the saltire, like they need to step up the rate of county flag adoption, so exactly. They can use a more local flag or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or obviously heraldry as well. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine like my state just not having a flag, for example. I don't know if that's like a 1-to-1 equivalent, but kind of feels like.
I think as well in Scotland, the saltire is so prominent these days in Scotland that people just don't even think about local flags. And obviously Scotland's a lot smaller as well. So, but people still have pride in their local communities. And it's certainly something that's people have seen how popular they have been in England and Wales, and the community spirit and the community days they have. A lot of the English shires now have, like, say, Suffolk days or Shropshire days or like that. That's something that's kind of unheard of in Scottish counties.
Hmm.
So, and a lot of that's just come around because they now have the flags and a local identity that they can rally behind. It doesn't take anything away from their national side of things. It's just an extra layer of identity and local pride sometimes. It's good for local companies to, sell their wares. If they put the local flag on it, you know exactly where it's from. So I think it's a really important aspect of local identity.
Yeah, sounds like it. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Like different countries have different like micro levels to them. But like in Tennessee, we I think it was like middle school, we learned Tennessee history, and I think across the state in public schools they did that. I wonder if the Scottish equivalent is like Scottish history or if it's more local than that. Like, did you learn? Well, you said you had to like search out when you were growing up and everything. You had to search out learning
Yeah,
history, but do you
it
have
was
any
an
gauge on
overall.
like now are kids like taught more local history or more Scottish
There,
history than when
there,
you were?
there's certainly more local history taught now. I still don't think it's to the level that it possibly should be. Not that, everyone will be interested in history, but certainly it should be a subject that's there and to teach all aspects of history. So generally it was an overall sort of British history I got when I was at school,
Yeah,
which often
yeah.
didn't include anything local.
I was
So
going
it
to say it
was,
was probably written by someone in England.
yeah, I mean, Scotland has a separate education system from England, but
Oh, okay, yeah.
the history still wasn't, that different. They're taught now, but certainly in the last few decades, I would say it's improved greatly. There's still the British aspect of history. There is more Scottish history being taught, and I think there's an emphasis on local history now. So local languages, like this, Aberdeenshire has the Doric language,
Mm.
which is a distinct dialect of the Scots language, which for decades in schools they didn't want you to use. Now
Yeah,
there's an emphasis on promoting it, getting people to understand it, uh, and I think it just an all round better understanding of your local history and identity.
yeah, especially when language is involved like that. Yeah, local language, local music, things like that are super
Exactly.
important. Yeah, it's also like like you kind of mentioned earlier the fact that they changed the historic counties to whatever the government entities are now. I think did England did something similar too, so I guess maybe it was a UK wide thing, but uh it's difficult. Well, it's probably even difficult for you guys, but as an American to go looking for counties and it's like, well, does Yorkshire exist? Well, kind of, but also not. But the West Riding does, but also
Yeah, there's a
it's there's ceremonial, there's historical, there's like it's a lot.
the yeah. I think there's a misunderstanding, and uh, it's widespread throughout the UK. But Scotland's are worked slightly different to England's, but they've had two changes on boundaries on council areas in the past 40 years. But there's a misunderstanding that the historic counties were abolished, and they never were. All that happened was they removed the link between the historic counties and local government. So because of
Oh,
population density and things like that, they were trying to make council areas sort of more equal in population density. Uh, so the local council areas exist. Quite a few of them still retain the names of the historic shires, which
yeah.
is the confusing aspect of it.
Yeah.
But the historic counties still exist in terms of, like the Lord Lieutenancies, as I said, which are the ceremonial aspects of the representatives from the monarch. They still exist, but they're also used for land registry in Scotland. So if you buy property in Scotland, it will be the historic county that's mentioned in that, not the council areas.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah. Next time I'm purchasing property in Scotland, which honestly I would love to do. I would absolutely love to. Looking at your Instagram and all the photos on there of it. Yeah, all right, cool. Let's get into some like I guess like design notes as well. Let's go over so your personal coat of arms and the flag that is behind you there that has that on it. Actually, let me ask this first. Do a lot of folks have a similar kind of flag / banner like that? Or do you just have one because you're a flag nerd like us, all the listeners are?
generally, anyone who has a coat of arms, an armiger in Scotland, anyone who has a coat of arms will have a banner of arms.
Okay, gotcha.
No coats of arms.
Right.
If you ever go to like clan gatherings in Scotland, Highland Games, there will often be sort of clan chiefs, and the bigger ones, especially. They'll maybe be a parade of their banners and things like that as well. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, it's very colourful events. They're fantastic. The Heraldry Society, I haven't been able to get to them just because of work and things like that. But when they have gatherings, they're all there with their banners, their little table banners, their banners of arms and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, also, first off, when you said clan gatherings, that has a whole different meaning in Tennessee here. It's
well, yes.
my gut was like, what? Something's wrong. Okay, no, you're fine.
Luckily, it's a different spelling.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, all right. So let's go into the design. We talked about the stag that comes from Thomson, but I've got it up here on my screen, and I'll have it on the screen for the viewers as well. But yeah, I guess walk us through the coat of arms because it has more elements than the banner does. But
okay, so you've got the shield to start off with, which is well, the whole achievement itself, what's an achievement of arms, is the coat of arms. So everything you see is the coat of arms.
Right. Okay.
And coat of arms is made up of the shield. Then on top of the shield is the helmet.
Got it.
On top of the helmet, you'll see a sort of twisted rope type.
Yeah. What is that called again?
It's called the torse.
Yes, torse.
And sitting on top of the torse is the crest.
The crest. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I remember Christoph schooled me on that one once.
Yes, lots of people just call the whole coats of arms the crest. But the crest
especially Americans. But yeah.
Yes, it's quite common. But the bit specifically above the helmet, above the torse, this rope-like section, is the crest. And distinct in Scottish heraldry is the motto above the crest. Generally, other countries have the motto underneath the coat of arms.
Okay, I was going to ask about that. Yeah. I don't know much, but I did kind of notice that.
Yeah, in Scotland, the motto is a distinct part of the coats of arms. So when you register your arms, your motto is part of your coat of arms. Whereas in England, when you get your coat of arms, the motto is below, but you can change it anytime you want. It's whatever you want at the time. It's not part of the recording of the arms, whereas in Scotland it is.
Okay, gotcha. So let's start. Let's go top down. So the motto, Noli. I'm guessing that V is a U, like Ublivisque?
Noli Oblivis.
Oblivis. Okay. Well, what is this?
Do not.
What does it mean?
Do not forget.
That's what I thought. I was going to say never forget, but
there's a couple of different spellings of Oblivis. You can spell it with an I instead of an E at the end as well.
Yeah. No, from French, I was looking at Oblivisque. Like, all right, I know what you mean. Yeah. All right, so we've got never or do not forget. I guess some form of that as the motto.
Yeah. The crest is a hand, and it's a dexter. It's a cubit arm. It's called. So it's this bit here, from your elbow upwards. So that's the cubit arm. The dexter is your right hand.
Right. Yeah.
And it's holding what they call a crosslet fiche. Now that just means it's a cross with little crosses at the ends of the
Right.
each.
Okay. I was gonna say I know they all have unique names. Okay.
Yes. I chose that. The arm is clothed in the Thomson tartan.
I was just going to ask because that's like a detail that one could miss, and I was
Yeah,
like, and I just noticed. I
some
was like, yeah, I
rendering
bet that's
a bit indistinct, but yeah, it is the Thomson tartan.
okay. So the Thomson tartan, so that comes directly from like the clan stuff, the clan system, and all that.
Yeah, I mean the Thomson tartans are fairly recent from the 1950s.
Oh, okay, okay.
But yeah,
It's one of those things that Americans think is ancient, like yoga, but it's really just from like
yeah.
yeah.
I mean there are new tartans coming out every day.
Gotcha.
You know, there's
What an
of them.
exciting day in Edinburgh! New tartan just dropped.
So you've got the Thomson tartan. The
Mhm.
crosslet I chose because it's an element that appears in quite a lot of Aberdeenshire heraldry.
Mhm.
My family history is mainly from Aberdeenshire, Kincardineshire next door as well, and it's quite distinct on the arms in the sort of Mar, the old province of Mar in Scotland. So I chose that as a local thing. You have the mantling on the coat of arms. That's the flowery sort of
Mhm.
off the helmet.
And did
Now,
you pick the coloring on that?
the colouring is always based on the main colour of your shield and the main metal of your shield.
Aha. Okay.
So the main metal obviously is argent on mine, which is silver.
Uh-huh.
It's the white. And then the main colour is obviously azure. So it's the blue and white mantling. Now the mantling is a historical item on a knight's helmet. That's why it's attached to the helmet.
Mhm.
And basically, it was a sunshade.
Okay.
If you're wearing a metal suit of armor on a sunny day, you're going to get hot.
Yeah.
So the mantling was there to help relieve some of the heat. The way that it's designed, and you'll see some very simple mantles on coats of
Mhm.
arms, and that's just artist's choice. You know how they want to draw it at the time. But the flowery aspect of it is because it's supposedly been slashed in battle, and it's
Okay.
in there. That's the idea behind that.
Gotcha. All right. And so let's move on to the helmet, I guess itself. I had a question about that, just something
Mhm.
again that I had never thought about until this very moment. But there are obviously different types of helmets that you see on
Yeah.
on coats of arms and things like that. What what made you pick this specific type, or what's I don't know, what's the is it just an aesthetics kind of?
Some of it is mainly in Scotland, especially. It's down to your rank in society.
Okay.
So mine's a simple bucket helm, essentially what they call it. It's just an everyday sort of knight's helmet,
Mhm.
just an everyday citizen type helmet.
Right.
The sort of lower ranks of society helmet
Yeah.
they would use on the battlefield.
Mhm.
They get more grand, you know, the dependent on your
Yeah,
title.
because some of them have like the feathery thing coming out of the top and this, that, and the other.
Some countries for crests will just have feathers rather than a proper crest as well. So
Yeah, that too.
well. In Scotland, generally, in England as well, the helmet won't face on to you because they're always faced to the side. They're always facing to your
Dexter?
left. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay.
um, Dexter from the shield owner's
Right, yeah,
perspective.
I had to learn that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I knew Dexter and Sinister, and I was like, but why are they opposite? And it's like, oh, well, if you are the
That's
one with the
that's
shield,
right.
then
If you're holding your shield, then it's based on your point of view looking out rather than you.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
The way I usually think of it now is just the opposite of what you thought it was, Andy.
Exactly. Exactly. That's all you need to know.
Yeah,
And
it's easy enough.
generally, helmets facing out are sovereign,
Okay.
and often they're in gold,
Right.
and barred as well. And it's not always just the sovereign. You do see others, sometimes older coats of arms may have that as well, depending.
Yeah.
Laws change slightly in different eras and things like that as well.
Right. So, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, you'll see on my coat of arms as well, I don't have supporters, which sometimes you'll see in coats of arms, there's often animals standing either side of the coats of arms. Mine doesn't have that. Again, they're restricted to nobility in Scotland.
Gotcha.
So dukes, earls, princes, they will have supporters. Right. Often businesses as well, if they're big companies, will get supporters in Scotland as well.
Businesses?
The businesses can apply for coats of arms as long as you're what they consider a distinct legal entity or a persona. You can apply for a coat of arms. So, generally, all the local authorities have coats of arms. Distilleries, all can have coats of arms. Any prominent Scottish business can have a coat of arms as well. And then obviously they can fly their banner of arms from their headquarters as well.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was picturing when you said that. Yeah. Because like most American companies, it's like, they'll have the American flag and then they'll have their quote unquote company flag, but it's just the name of the company on a flag or like, their logo sometimes. The thing that I was going to ask again, before I forget, is so on the helmet, you've got as the viewer is looking at it, the bottom left, you've got another little cross there, the same as the one that's on the crest. That's kind of like, looks like it's like engraved into the metal or something. Is that a Scott choice, or is that like a typical thing that's done? Or
that was an artist's choice by the artist who did that. One which I approved of immensely. The thing you have to know with a coat of arms is what's actually recorded. The important bit is what they call the blazon, and that's the actual written aspect of the coat of arms, not the emblazon, which is the artistic representation of the words.
Oh, okay.
So you are legally given coats of arms, and this is the blazon, and you cannot change that blazon, but the artistic representation of that blazon could be, as long as the artistic representation fits with what the words say.
Yeah.
So you'll get artistic representations of the same blazon that look completely distinct from each other, but you can tell that they're the same coats of arms.
Right.
And this changes from decade to decade, whatever particular style of art is in as well.
Yeah.
So things like that can be artistic choice.
Yeah, in linguistics we have like the signifier and the signified, and it's pretty much a lot like that. All right, so moving down, so we're at the is it just called the shield, or is it called like
just the shield?
Okay.
Yeah.
Azure, or how do you pronounce it? Azure.
Azure,
Azure.
Which is blue. Generally, that can be any shade of blue.
Yeah.
Sort of really light blues I can't remember the exact term for it, can have a different term. But generally, Azure can be any shade, and again, that's an artist's choice.
Gotcha.
Or the armager's choice when he's getting them. My banner's a slightly lighter shade than the actual one I got on the actual certificate when I was going. But again, it's still Azure there, so it's blue. So it's the blue background. And then at the top of the shield, I don't know if you can see it there, there's a lion. That's what's called in chief. So it's the top of the shield.
Okay.
And it's a lion, passant, guardant.
Okay, so passant. Wait. Let me hold on.
Okay.
Passant is like he's walking.
Yes.
And guardant is the paw that's up.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Yes.
And also the face is looking out towards you as well.
Okay.
Now that's taken from my mum's side of the family, O'Brien, an Irish family. And if you look up O'Brien coats of arms, they have, think of the English coats of arms, 3 lions.
Yep.
3 gold lines on red. Well, the O'Brien coats of arms is red shield with 3 line passants guardant, but the distinction is they're impales color wise. So the first half of the line is gold, and the end of the line is silver or white, and that's
Right on.
my maternal side.
Okay, so that makes sense. So in chief, a lion, passant, guardant. How would you? What's the term for like the 2 colors?
It's or for the gold.
But like, how would you say it? Like in chief, a lion, passant, guardant.
Okay, so it's in chief, a lion, passant, guardant, per pale, or, and argent.
Whew. Per pale, or, and argent.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I may be getting my own wrong. It's been a while since I checked.
That was a cool. I'm not even going to do like a different quiz. I'm just going to quiz you on this. No. Although actually we may have to do a short version for time, but I want to know more about. Okay, so we got that, and then what's the thing in between that and the stag?
Okay, well, this, as we've said previously, the stag is from Thomson, my paternal line, so that represents the Thomson family. The bit in the middle is a mill rind.
Okay, yeah. Millerand?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And that was a clip that was used on a mill wheel on windmills. And my dad's occupation, when he was a young lad, he was a millwright.
Okay.
So to represent, what he did, and they took that from my dad's occupation and put that as a distinct signifier that it's my coat of arms in the middle there.
Gotcha.
And that's issuing out the stag's head. So it's between it's between the antlers of the stag.
Yeah. Awesome. So the whole thing tells a story. That is very cool. Yeah, the O'Brien and the Thomson, millwright. You're not nobility. And do not forget. Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
When I got when I petitioned for arms, the wording on the matriculation, which is the vellum you get, it says you're now accepted in the noblesse of Scotland, which is just you were accepted as part of the nobility of Scotland. But that's since been removed because it essentially didn't mean anything. It just it was giving a false impression that you were ennobled in some way.
Yeah.
Which you weren't. It was just part of the
right. Over here we have that scam or whatever where it's like, oh, buy a square foot of land in Scotland and you can be like a noble or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like that's not how it works.
Well,
but anyway, okay, yeah. Real quick before we have to close up, and while we're on like design notes, want to go into the Aberdeenshire flag rather. What can you tell us about? I mean, obviously, a lot of people that listen to this have probably seen it plastered everywhere because it's one of the newest, flags. It's the new hotness, like Utah was a few weeks ago. But what, as far as what does it represent, and what colors for those who haven't seen it?
Okay, mine hasn't turned up yet, but here's a sticker of it.
Yep.
What it is, it's essentially it's a bi flag. It's a vertical bi flag. So the first half of the flag is the official blazon for it in the Lord line is 10A. But it's essentially gold, a dark gold. It's between, I would say it's between orange, yellow, and brown. It's somewhere in that color scheme.
Yeah, I would say it lives closer to orange, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say that too.
Yeah.
The second half of the flag, heraldically, is called purpur, I believe.
Mm-hmm. That was not hard to figure out.
Which is purple.
Yeah.
On top of that, in the middle, is a large three-towered castle in white. And on top of the castle is an ancient crown, and that is purple, so it's split. And it's the opposite colours of the background. So the first half of the crown is the purple, and the second half of the crown is the gold and yellow.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for things like that. Is that called countercharged, or is countercharged something else and I'm using that incorrectly?
Counterchanged.
Counterchanged, I mean. Okay. Yeah, I am a sucker for things like that, though, for sure. So yeah, I was just gonna ask, like on the design of it. So it's interesting for us flag nerds because purple and orange. I'm just gonna call it orange because that's the way I see it, honestly. Not very common on flags, and yet this one ended up with both of them. I was gonna ask, are those? Is there a reason for that? Are those historic colors that are important to the region or anything like that? Or
they're not at all. Historically, if you look at Aberdeenshire's coat of arms, overwhelmingly their colours are gold, more yellowy gold, and blue azure. There was one of the finalists used those colours, which the one I actually thought would win. I think it came third in the end. But these colours have no link to the Shire, but they do represent aspects of the Shire.
Right,
so the gold represents barley, an arable land in the Shire. Aberdeenshire is a very important Shire for the arable nature of it. It's I think it's like a quarter of Scotland's arable land is in the Shire.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So it represents barley and also the whiskey that is made.
Okay, and a kid drew this, right?
Yes, 5 of them. It's actually a merged design from 2 different entries.
Okay.
So there was 5. 4 girls from one school, and a young lad from another, and the entry was merged. I think I don't know. They didn't show the entries. I think the one you mentioned earlier that you'd seen, I think, was the girls' entry. They chose.
I think it was.
Yeah, I think they chose the colours in the castle, and the young lad had a castle in his as well. And he had the crown specifically. So
right, yeah, which does tie it together nicely.
Yes, I think it goes really well. The crown, the purple colour represents the heather on the hills in Aberdeenshire. Aberdeenshire is the second largest mountain in the UK. Ben Macdui. And the Grampian Mountains and the Cairngorms all pass through the Shire. So if you catch it in the right season, you'll have the beautiful purple heather on the hills. The castle represents Aberdeenshire is known as Castle Country. There are over 260 castles in Aberdeenshire alone.
Damn.
Most of them ruined these days, but not all of them. But they're still spectacular to see, even the ruins. So that represents the castles in general, but also more specifically Balmoral Castle, which
I was going to ask, it's a specific castle or like a...
It is taken to represent Balmoral specifically.
Which is... if I remember, like that's one of the ones that the royals own or something, or
yes, it's the royal family's personal private property in Aberdeenshire. That's where the late Queen passed away.
Yes, that's where I remember it
Yes.
from.
So that's been in the royal family since the 19th century. So they always take their summer holidays in Aberdeenshire.
Right.
And it's quite an important part of the local tourist industry as well.
Oh yeah, I would say.
Yeah,
So so I was going to say, so the combination of the castle being kind of broader castle country, but also being Balmoral, and the crown on top. So that's just a clear, like, the crown and the castle kind of work together. That's
yes. The crown also appears on the Aberdeenshire coat of arms, so that is actually taken from.
Okay, the same style, same
style, an antique crown. It represents the district I live in, actually, which is Geary. There's three crowns on this coat of arms, so that's taken from that as well, you could say. So there is a link to the coat of arms in there. And I have to say, when the finalists were announced, there were 5 finalists. This was my least favourite.
Oh yeah.
I would have naturally, being heraldically minded, I would have gone for the blue and yellow one because it matched the heraldic aspects and colour schemes. But I didn't vote straight away. I left it for a while and and this is the winner is the one I did actually eventually vote for.
Oh, okay. You came around, yeah.
I did, and given how much I wasn't keen on it when it first came out, it was a major turnaround. But I love it now. The reason I voted for it basically was because it was so distinctive.
Yes, that's what I like about it.
It's, I thought that, with the blue and yellow one, it would have been nice and it would have been more maybe heraldically accurate colour scheme wise, but it might get lost in the mix with the other county flags.
Mm-hmm.
Often in Parliament Square in London, they'll put up the county flags. And I thought it might get lost in the mix, but if you see this flying, it's clearly distinct. And the castle stands out really well. I took a trip up to Braemar where it was flying to check it out in person, and it is really distinctive when it's flying. It's a beautiful, beautiful flag when it's flying.
Yeah, check out. Are those on your personal Twitter or on the flag Twitter?
I think they're on the flag one. Yeah, they're on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, go check out at the Shire Flag for pictures of that. It looks awesome. Were you at the first ever raising of it too? Did you make that?
I wasn't, because again, I only found out of it.
Oh, right.
Find that it was happening the day before.
Yeah,
it wasn't announced very. It was in the press, but it sort of passed by very quickly.
Gotcha.
If I had known in advance, I would have gone along to Castle Fraser's just up the road from me.
Sure, yeah.
So I would have gone along. I was kind of disappointed I missed it, to be honest.
But it happens.
I
would be too, though.
Yeah, I was just so glad that we actually had a competition. I genuinely thought Aberdeenshire might be the last. To get, so to be one of the first ones in Scotland to have their
and that's kind of actually what I wanted to close on here before we get to plugs is like, what's next for Scottish I guess vexillology specifically? Are there any propositions, like anything's going in the works or anything like that, or
yes, there's
rumblings of something?
There's 2 more competitions in the works in the next 2 neighbouring counties to Aberdeenshire. So Banffshire, which is quite a small county, directly next to Aberdeenshire, and Moray as well, which is the one a little bit closer near Elgin on the way to Inverness direction. They are holding a sort of joint competitions. The competitions are separate, but they were announced at the same time and they're running at the same time. There's a lot of interplay between those counties as well. So they're holding their competition, and again, they did work exactly the same way. They were announced by the Lord Lieutenants. Local competitions in the local newspapers and their websites, open to anyone to enter. I think they've closed now for the actual designs, so they're working on cutting the designs down to the finalists at the moment.
Okay. So they cut the designs down to the finalists, and then the public votes on those?
Yes, there's a panel
Gotcha.
made up of experts. So generally, the Lord Lyon is on the panel, and
Sure.
Phil Tibbetts, the honorary vexillologist.
I was going to say, Phil better be there.
Oh, he's there.
Good.
He's there, and generally they'll have people from local councils. Banffshire's split between two local authorities, so I'm not entirely sure who's working on each panel.
Sure.
But the Lord Lieutenant, and there's numerous deputy Lord Lieutenants as well, which are all part of the panel. So they'll cut down. I think Murray is cutting it down to 4 finalists, and Banffshire is 5 finalists. I'm not sure the.
Gotcha. And you have to be a local to vote, I assume.
No, anyone can. Well, the Aberdeenshire was open to anyone in the world. So I'm assuming these ones will be open to anyone.
Okay. Right on. So we'll have to, keep an eye out for that. You are in the Discord, so keep us posted on any movement that may come from any of that. But I think it's time for us to wrap up, Scott. So Scott, which is, I've just now realized is, I don't know if it's the most Scottish name, but it's the most Scott name, I guess. Where can people find you, follow you, and check out what you've got going on?
I have the Shire Flag Twitter account, which I newly created. I'm so excited about this new flag that I created a Twitter account for it.
Yep.
So early days, but we'll see how that goes. I have my own personal Twitter at Surider. You can follow me there, and my Instagram as well, which is mostly me just snapping photos when I'm out and about.
Go follow it though; it's gorgeous. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, and and I will have all those links as well in the show notes. For us, you probably know where you can follow us, but anywhere there's an @ sign, we are at flagged 4 content. Let's see, the easiest place to do that is going to be our link tree, which is just linktree/flagged for content, all spelled out. And I think that was it. There's one thing I feel like I'm forgetting though. Oh yeah, I have no idea how to close this show. Scott, do you have anything that might be of any assistance for us?
Well, you could say farewell and high may your proud standards gloriously wave.
Amen. Cheers to that. Thanks for coming on, Scott. Y'all, thanks for listening, for watching. This episode has been Flagged for Content. Right on, dude. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that.
Good, yeah. I had Flagged for Content is a Flags for Good podcast. Go to flagsforgood.com for more info.